What's up, everybody? Grant Wise here. Welcome to the Marketing Genius Podcast. Very, very interested in this interview today. We've got Mr. Chris Tosswill, the founder of Addressable on. I met Chris when I was at Inman Connect. I spoke there, I think it's a couple of weeks ago now.
Yep.
And I was fascinated by their product and probably even more so the machine they had working behind them that was manually writing all these letters and postcards. And so I wanted to interview him. I was again super fascinated with everything that they've got going on. So Chris, thanks for jumping on, man.
Awesome. Thank you, Grant. Really excited to be here. Inman was our first conference. It was a fantastic experience, just sort of diving in with all the agents. As I said, it sounds kind of crazy, but basically my company uses a patented robot technology to handwrite direct mail with little robots that hold actual blue ballpoint pens. So this isn't laser printing, this isn't inkjet printing, this is actual pen on paper. And this creates an effect that looks like your friend or your neighbor wrote you a note. And so we're able to command a much, much higher response rate than any other form of direct mail or even some forms of digital mail. It's been a really fun ride.
I love it. Love it. I love it. Love it even more. You're drinking water out of a wine glass. That's awesome.
Yeah. Later it will be actual wine, but right now I have to stay sharp.
Right. Yeah. It's too early in the day. So give us a story, man. How did you get into this business? Who are you? How did you get to where you are today?
Sure. So I like to say that I'm an engineer who can talk well. My background is in software development. I've been working in tech for more than a decade, mainly focusing on technologies that connect people. So actually in the past, I used to hold roles at OkCupid and Facebook. At OkCupid, I worked on developing new dating ideas, so figuring out how we can connect people, working in messaging and that sort of thing. And then at Facebook, I ran the team that actually developed reactions. So when you long press the like button and see the different faces, the angry face and so forth, that was a product that I developed. I got into real estate marketing because it's such a fascinating space, and direct mail specifically. I've talked to hundreds of agents at this point, thousands of agents, and most real estate agents send postcards each month. They might send a few hundred or a few thousand, and they do that to sort of keep their name presence and their branding in a specific area where they do a lot of business. The problem is that since everyone is sending these postcards, the response rate is just pretty low. Most agents I talk to get 1 or 2 responses a year, if that. And so being a technologist, like how can we make mail that's really engaging, but in an automated way? Because people know that if you handwrite a letter, it'll have a higher open rate and a higher engagement rate because you took the time to make it personal. But if you're trying to handwrite 1,000 letters, not only are you going to cramp your wrist, you're going to take up all your time. And real estate agents want to spend their time actually talking with clients and closing deals. So I met my co-founder actually over Facebook. We were discussing how we can make better mail. And he had been working on this robot tech, and we sort of joined forces middle of last year, and then launched the product January of this year, just to a handful of agents in the Bay Area. And the initial response has been just amazing. We sent out 1,900 handwritten cards into downtown San Francisco to a number of the high-end condo buildings. And that one batch of mail generated 34 calls and $42 million worth of real estate leads, 12 listing appointments in 1 month. That's more responses than you're going to get in probably a decade of mailing postcards. We were able to do that in a single month. From there, we just started reaching out to additional agents. And then Inman Connect in Vegas was sort of our first real foray into really promoting what we're doing. And so now we have a lot of inbound requests and people starting to use us. Again, we're mostly right now in the Bay Area and LA, although we just got our first agent on the East Coast last week.
That's awesome, man. Kudos to you for getting it launched off. I had no idea of your background. It sounds like you like studying human behavior a little bit with some of the stuff you got going on.
Absolutely. I'm fascinated what connects people and how you engage people. And that's sort of what makes, there's a number of things that make Addressable really unique. Not just our robot technology, but we work with agents both to create the best mailing list as well as to create the best copy. So our goal is to deliver the right message to the right person at the right time. Many agents use lists that come from title companies or other places, which might not even have the person's accurate name. Like a lot of people, there's like artifacts and different problems with their mailing list. And so one of the key things that we help people with is going through and making sure that every card that we send is actually to a person by their first name. Because if I send you a letter that says, "Dear neighbor" versus "Hi Grant," one's going to work a lot better.
Right.
So we are all about personalization, and sending the right message at the right time.
And so you work with a lot of people that kind of self-curate their own list, or maybe they run Facebook ads and they're doing lead generation, or they're on LinkedIn and they make a new friend, or you've got even some API where, people are generating 300, 400, 500, 1,000 even a month, leads a month. They can kind of activate some of those direct response type mail campaigns.
Exactly. So there's basically two different ways in which people use our product. One way they do it as a monthly recurring product where we send the handwritten mail of different forms to the mailing list that we've helped them curate. It can be from past business. It can be pulled from a third-party vendor or CRM or something like that. But we also have this sort of one-off way where people can log in and type up a message just like an email and hit enter and get sent like a handwritten card. People like to do that where they'll have a listing appointment and then they'll log into our platform and type up the message just thanking them. And you can add details directly about the conversation you just had and then send that note. And it's super personal and really effective.
Love it. I've told people for years, people are probably listening to this like, why is he interviewing somebody that's talking about direct mail? Because I've been like staunchly against direct mail for quite some time. And so I'm going to clear the air here for a second and say, I think that cold outreach from a direct mail standpoint is a very noisy space. I mean, you have a lot of the industry that's been taught how to do this for a long time. And I think there's some saturation that exists. But one of the things that I will never discount is psychology, and reticular activation I think is one of the most powerful things that the brain or you might see within the brain when you know that you have a problem, you have somebody that can help solve that problem, and when they start to see you everywhere, I think there's just great power in that. And so I'm not a fan of cold mail at all. Still not, even though you got some cool technology.
Yep.
I am absolutely a huge raving fan of warm mail. Like when somebody knows who you are and then a piece of mail shows up on their desk. And I was telling you the story before we jumped on about Russell Brunson and how he ended up selling me his book. It was not through a Facebook ad or his Facebook group or an email list or a chat bot. It wasn't doing any of those things. It was, I had created a ClickFunnels account years and years ago now, 5 years ago now. Wow. And all of a sudden this big giant piece of mail shows up in my mailbox, and it was Russell Brunson's big mug talking about how I could get Dotcom Secrets for free if I just paid the shipping and handling. I walked right inside of my computer, bought the book, and I've been a raving fan of that strategy for a long time. And I've seen some of even our own students, because we teach a lot of direct response marketing, and when they get leads, they'll take that handwritten mailer approach, and they'll just kill it with the response that they get. Why do you think that works so well? I mean, you've obviously studied this a little bit more than I have, but when somebody becomes a lead, maybe, you've got these self-curated lists that you're helping agents build. Why do you think it's so powerful? Given your background in human behavior studies, it seems, why does this work so well?
So there's a number of really interesting characteristics about direct mail specifically. The fact that it's a physical thing as opposed to something that's ephemeral like digital really helps it. When you pick up the piece of mail and you read the mail, you're holding it. It's a much more natural way for the human mind to take in information as opposed to seeing a Facebook ad or seeing an email that can just disappear. People generally take the piece of mail and they put it on their coffee table and then they look at it again. And so they're actually choosing to re-expose themselves to the same piece of marketing and same piece of engagement several times. A number of studies have shown that the brand affinity and the recall is significantly higher, more than 100% higher with physical mail as opposed to digital forms. And that's again because it just works with the human brain. It's something that we're used to interacting with. It's like a piece of something. So that's part of it, the physicality of it, and then the timing and the connection about it. So with our mail, because it's handwritten, I'm currently I feel sad. I'm forgetting the guy's name. I'm just blanking out. But he wrote the book Thinking Fast and Slow. Really famous psychologist. Anyway, basically he talks about system 1 and system 2 of how you engage the brain. I feel really bad that I'm blanking out his name. But anyway, when the system 1 is something that's all about reflexes. So when someone throws a ball at your head and you duck, you're using system 1. When you're doing something that requires intense mental effort, you're using system 2. Now, system 1 is the lizard brain, whereas system 2 is the mammalian brain. And when you engage the body generally tries to avoid engaging system 2 because it's harder for it to engage. It requires more energy and more effort. That's why if you're doing something that's highly complex tasks, you feel tired afterwards. Anyway, but the thing is, when you're using system 2, you understand things deeper and you remember things longer. And so by making something harder to engage with, you actually make it a lot more likely that they're going to remember it. And so in the case of this book, they talk about if you actually printed a piece of paper and the text is very light, so it's harder to read, or in a script that's harder to read, because your mind requires more effort to read the content, you'll actually remember it longer. And so our handwritten mail, because it's basically in cursive, the person has to stop, look at it, understand it, comprehend it. And all of these things lead to making it stick in your mind longer and feel more personal, engaged better.
I love it. That's a bunch of great information. Daniel Kahneman was the author of that book. Yeah. And I'm not super smart. I just Googled that while he was talking, so don't think that I know everything in the world. But
just great book, by the way. You should absolutely read that book. It's really
just trying to lob up an assist. I'm going to read that book. I'm going to order as soon as I get off here because the study of human behavior fascinates me. I was just talking to my brother about that right before we got on here. I love it, man. I love it. I think, and if you're listening to this, it's like, okay, how do I apply this? For example, let's say you're an agent and you've really grown to modernize your business and you are generating leads through Facebook. Okay. That's a perfect example. So you get some leads, they provide you the address, and then all of a sudden, as a part of your follow-up campaign, you have this direct mail piece that goes out. It's a warm form of engagement. And it's a unique form of engagement. Why does it, and I want you to drive this home for me. You got cold mail that's going out. You got agent after agent after agent that's sending these people cold mail. But then now all of a sudden this warm piece of mail shows up. Like, what's the difference?
Oh, it's fundamental. It's all about that it's personal. It's about connection. We have time and time again, like literally one of our customers, they recently had a listing appointment, and the fellow owns a multi-million-dollar home in the Palisades in LA. And I can't go into too many details because I'm bound by an NDA. But the person said, I receive dozens of postcards each month from tons of agents who have no idea who I am. That's like, dear neighbor and such. But you took the time to write me a letter by hand. And I really appreciate that. And I want to talk with you. And I've seen this time and time again because it's all about effort and connection, and timing is everything. When you get those inbound leads and someone says like, hey, I want to talk with you, following up immediately with a piece of mail that's timely and about the specific thing. Another thing that I always advise my customers on is you can't be, it has to be temporal. It has to be about something that's happening in the market right now. Like talking about how the interest rates have just changed and what that impact is on sales, or talking about a specific sale that's happened in their neighborhood and what that might do for their prices. You need to be timely. You need to be engaging with the person specifically. And then you have an amazing response rate, as opposed to, unfortunately, a lot of mail that and why you perhaps don't like sort of cold direct mail is because a lot of cold direct mail is all about how cheaply can we send it. They try and drive the price down as low as possible. So they do low quality printing. They do impersonal mail. It says dear neighbor or dear current resident. And they just do the every door direct mail, which is just sort of spray and pray over an area. So they have no idea what sort of home the card is going to, or if the person even owns or lives there. And so by helping them tune the list, so we know that we're only sending it to the homeowners, we're only sending it to specific people, and we actually use merge tags and variables within the body of our messaging so that it's very personalized. So we can talk about the street that they're on, or the value of their home, or something like that, and make specific call outs so that the person knows that we're talking to them and it's not just a piece of mass mail.
Love it. Do you find that, if you were doing this on a mass level, is this something that you should, as an agent, take the time to personalize with everyone that you send, or is there more of a templated approach to being personal, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, so we have a few different templates that we generally use that are sort of tried and true. They're formats around events and around the homes themselves. You can basically, you want to have it be like a few minor details that tweak it to make it really personal, but you don't need to personalize the entire thing. Doing that for 1,000 cards would be pretty challenging. It's also part of sort of a generally blended strategy. Like the people who really use our product effectively are ones who are doing 1,000 or 2,000 handwritten cards a month to their sphere or targeted area. And then they're on top of that doing a handful of one-off cards that they're just going in and typing up themselves. And those obviously are super personal because they're about a listing appointment that they just had or wishing somebody that they know a happy birthday or something like that. Yeah.
I love it. So if I'm an agent and I'm like, all right, I like it. I'm generating maybe 100 leads a month, but to sit down and write out 100 different cards or, mailers, that would take me like, I don't know, 5-6 hours. I have no idea. I've never sat down and written that many postcards. Yeah. My hand would fall off at like 30 minutes and then I would just be upset for like the next 4 hours, 4.5 hours. Yep. I've seen your technology working. When I was at Inman, I was pretty fascinated. You have this giant machine and this thing is a robot. It's like actually moving around a real pin. Talk to me about why this is different, because there were thought to be companies that were similar. And after getting to know you a little bit, I know that they're really not similar at all. But why is this work so well? Like you're using real pens, like that's like you're using real handwriting. Like talk to me through a little bit of that process.
Sure. So our success is based on a combination of hardware and software. On the hardware side, we have a patented robot technology that uses actual blue ballpoint pens. And we're the only provider that's doing this because it's really hard to do. Most everyone else is laser printing stuff that looks like handwriting. And some other people have tried to use stuff that like a felt pen. But again, that doesn't have the same feel. It still looks like it's printed. When you put an actual ballpoint pen on paper, you're cutting a little groove into the paper itself while the ball is rolling along. And the human eye can see that. Whereas the laser printed stuff, it sort of falls in the uncanny valley where initially it might look like it's handwritten, but someone quickly inspects and they're like, this looks kind of handwritten, but clearly isn't because they can see the texture of the ink printing. So the first bit is, we use actual ballpoint pens and it makes your mind realize that it's really handwritten as opposed to laser printed or something else like that. The second part is the software that we use to drive the robots creates a number of things that makes the letters unique, meaning that if you look at one of our pieces of mail, all the different characters are different. The I's, the O's, and the E's. Like people will quickly scan and see. It's not like, okay, the machine is writing the same little perfect A over and over again. We have lots of different combinations of the different characters. And our software swaps them out and does other sort of flourishes to make it look like a real person did it. And so this combination of hardware and software makes our mail incredibly engaging and looks like something that your friend or your neighbor wrote. On top of that, we then work on creating the copy, as I just talked about, the copy that's most engaging and most temporal. And we work out with the agents about what time of week it makes sense to send the mail. Because another thing that's really interesting is like, what day of the week is it best to send a letter to someone? Can be a question based on who you're sending the letter to.
Love it. I love it. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Totally fascinating. What I got a couple of questions. So
sure.
First, another just like interest question. Can you send postcards or is it like letters? How is it delivered? Like what's that experience like from a user standpoint?
Yeah, so our flagship product is a handwritten A7 card in a hand addressed envelope with a first class stamp. And that's basically something that kind of looks like a birthday card, but it has your logo printed on the outside cover and then the handwritten message on the inside, put into an envelope, and then hand addressed with a real first class stamp. That's sort of our standard product that we use for everybody. It is the most engaging piece of mail you can send, period. We also do postcards. Our technology, we can actually write on any format. We do large, like the big sort of manila envelope things that you put a lot of like full sheets of paper into. We do that for some agents where we hand address that with a Sharpie. And that is a really cool experience. That's actually how we get our customers. We send out lots of these handwritten packets to agents. And then they're interested in our product and they call us up. Now we do postcards as well, and that's part of our farming product. We send handwritten mail of different formats. The thing about the postcards is that So we put a handwritten message and a handwritten address on the back side of it. They're not as they're better than traditional postcards, but they're still not as sort of like eye catchy as these A7s. So we generally tell people to start with the A7s and then branch out to do postcards in other formats as they need to. But we can write on any format you want.
That's awesome. Why, with all of the, like, with your brain, with your background, with everything you guys have going on, why such a unique interest to go into the handwritten, yellow handwritten letter, handwritten postcard space? Like, what was it about identifying that niche within the real estate industry that was just fascinating to you?
Yeah. So the long-term vision for Addressable is to become the platform for sending all mail. If you look at every channel that you can directly advertise to somebody with, in all the situations, there is one key platform that does it. Social, it's Facebook. In search, it's Google. For shopping, it's Amazon. For email, it's inarguably MailChimp. But there's no platform that makes it really easy to send high quality direct mail. And so we're initially starting in the real estate industry, focused on handwritten mail because that's the super premium product that generates leads that are worth the highest dollar value. From there, we intend to actually expand into multiple verticals and then eventually get into laser printed mail as well, so that we can become the everything store, but for mail.
That's awesome, man. I love it. If you're listening to this, I want you to make sure that you go check Chris out. What's the best place for them to come learn more about you guys?
Yeah, so they can come to our website, which is www.addressable.app, or send me an email at chris@addressable.app.
Addressable.app, not .com, .app.
Nope.
Guys, we'll make sure we'll make sure that we link that up in the comment section. I think it is a brilliant way. Like I said, not to take anything away from some of the cold strategies that Chris was talking about, but I'm super in favor of a warm kind of nurture or follow-up strategy off of your lead gen. I think it's an incredible way. I've seen it work really, really successfully, especially with a lot of our students, that they'll fire off like a handwritten postcard or a handwritten piece of mail to somebody that's opted into some of their marketing campaigns, and it is a gangster strategy. It will increase your conversions. I've seen it in real time. And if you can automate some of that process, that's even like all the more cool. You can have a very, very, very personal approach to business in some of an automated fashion. So
exactly.
I hope that you guys check that out. That's awesome, man. Chris, thanks so much for dropping by the show today. I appreciate you, man. It was good to meet with you in Vegas at Inman, and we'll be running into each other, somewhere else. So it was nice to connect.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, it was fantastic. Glad to be on the show.
You guys are awesome. Keep tuning into the show on the website. Make sure that you rate us on iTunes and Google Play. We will see you on the next episode. Peace.